Have you ever stayed around someone who you knew wasn't good for your well-being?
I'm sure many people have done that, including myself, but the question is, why do we do that?
I think one of the reasons is you feel guilty for leaving someone maybe sometimes.
But that guilt's got to come from somewhere, I guess.
I think if I'm talking on a personal level, I think my own experience would say it comes from maybe a fear of being alone. So to cover up an insecurity of, I don't want to be alone, you justify it by maybe staying with someone who isn't actually good for you and cover up maybe their mistakes or what they're doing wrong.
And then I guess there's also peer pressure when you see your friends, partners, husbands, and if you've got somebody with you, you think, oh, there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah, I felt like that. Like, you've told me guys I've dated, because I'm open like that, aren't I? I say, oh, I'm seeing this guy and whatever. And, say 2-3 years ago, you would always question it and go, are you sure? Like, is he okay? I'm like, no, he's this and he's that and he's great on paper and we went out on a date. But actually, I just was ignoring everything I was feeling inside.
Yeah, because there's also that you get worried that you start questioning yourself, is there something wrong with me? And then those questions start coming in, is there something wrong with me? That why I haven't got somebody? And then once the why kicks in, and that's it.
I've asked that question before.
Yeah, then you're in a spiral, complete spiral.
Yeah, like I have done that. I've told you about guys and I've gone, oh, mum, he kind of said this to me and it didn't make me feel right. But we had a good time anyway, so I'm going to see him again. I mean, there's not really any logical sense to that, is there?
Not really, but it's once you feel that you have to fit in because everybody's doing it, then you've got your childhood probably traumas as well, where you may have felt alone. That doesn't help. Then the people you're hanging around with, it's just a combination of so many things, but finding out where it's all come from, that's the main thing.
So would you say it's more about comes from childhood, it's a generational thinking, or it's maybe the environment that you're in? What would you say it is then?
It's both. It's childhood and what you've been made to believe. So in childhood, if you've been left alone, nobody was there for you, and finally somebody sees you and gives you some attention and makes you feel good, you cling on to them because you're now feeling for the first time in your life safe.
Okay, so I get the trauma from, childhood, because I think we could all say we've maybe experienced that on some level. But sometimes you talk about inherited beliefs. So what do you mean by that then?
Well, inherited beliefs is every generation, my parents have passed their beliefs to me and their parents passed their beliefs to them. So that my beliefs were driven to me is that you get married at a certain age, the man is the provider, you look after the kids and the house and the husband, and that's it. And you stay with that person, doesn't matter if they're good for you or not. Marriage is sacred, you never leave them, and you just get on with it. Yeah. And that's how we were brought up.
Yeah. And I think, to be honest, I could say there are some beliefs that you maybe have passed down to us, but I would say that's not one of them. I would say you've never kind of said to us, the man should do this and the woman should do this and you have to sit at home. Like, you've always said, go out and live your life. And I think that's probably the difference in generations, that in my generation now, I would say, is we have a lot more awareness of these things, so that you shouldn't just stay with someone, or you shouldn't be friends with someone, or if your family's doing something, you shouldn't just stick with it because that's what the other generations used to do.
Yeah, so that belief was passed to my parents passed it on to me, but I didn't agree with it, but I still went along with it because I was made to believe that that's what you do for the family. But I vowed I was going to pass them beliefs on to you. So the generation patterns only change if my generation break that pattern.
Okay, so we've established it can come from a traumatic experience, maybe something in your childhood, generational or, inherited beliefs, peer pressure, the environment that you're in, maybe from friends or family or whoever. But the question still remains is, if we know where it comes from, that's fine, tick that off. There still remains the question of why you continue to live in that pattern.
Yeah, so why do we continue with when we know it's giving us pain?
Yeah.
Because, as you know, the brain is designed to keep us safe. So it keeps us safe by repeating the same patterns. It would rather give you the same pain, allow the same pain to enter, because that's familiar. So if it's familiar, it's okay. But if you then allow to break that pattern or bring some new thought process in, for the brain, the body first obviously reacts. The brain then it's like a virus has entered.
Yeah.
And it won't allow you to.
So it's a bit like when the first time you ever do something and you've not done it before, like, I don't know, the first time you go for a job interview and you've never done it before, it's something new, it's not familiar, and you're kind of worried and like anxious and you're like, what happens? And then you get past it and then, you know, next time you do it, it's fine. But in this case, obviously that's not an example about pain, but it's like anything, it's a habit. So these patterns, these cycles, emotions, they basically become habits in our lives.
Yes, so the brain is so used to those habits, but those habits, even though it may have given you pain, stress, anxiety, it still kept you safe.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. And that's all the brain knows what to do.
Yeah. And I think a good question, and we were talking about this before, is you have to ask yourself the what if question, right? So what if I do this? What if I do that? And really question yourself, like talk to yourself.
Yes, the only way to break that pattern is not react. Just quickly jump up and do something, or quickly jump up and try to keep that person happy by bending over backwards, by saying, well, what if I give myself some time and I do what they want later on? But it has to be a what if, because that's when the brain will be confused and you will break that pattern.
Yeah, and me personally, what I sometimes do is, in any situation, not even if I'm just, you know, before, if I would say be a people pleaser or whatever, you know, I would say, okay, what's the best case scenario and what's the worst case scenario? So let's say I don't bend over backwards for this friend. What's the worst thing that will happen? They may not speak to me for a little bit. But in the past, that would really worry me. I'd get really anxious. Oh no, like they'll be upset with me. Now I sit there and I really question it and I pause and I think, they might be a bit annoyed at me, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be my friend. They should just hopefully understand. Yeah,
and the only way you can pause is if you watch out for what your body is telling you. So you can't just pause. You have to be aware.
Mm-hmm.
So that moment where you want to get up and make that person happy, you want to bend over backwards, they're still being mean to you, but you still let them do it. You have to recognize what your body is telling you. That the body is telling you, I don't like this. I'm upset. I'm in the verge of crying. You have to, at that moment, recognize what the body is saying. And it's when you recognize what the body is saying, that's when you bring in the what if.
Yeah, so once you've recognized those feelings, those thoughts, you know, how your body's, you know, feeling in that moment, that's when you can regulate your emotions. Once you've recognized, but you must recognize first.
Oh yeah, you can't regulate your emotions if you don't know what you're regulating.
Yeah, exactly. And then once you've done that, then that's how you can respond differently in that moment. Because you've gone through that self-awareness process, you can then respond differently. And you'll actually see over time how you then rebuild on these new patterns. As we were talking about habits earlier, this is how you create new habits, but we're just talking about emotions.
That's right. Yes, but just remember, let's not forget the recognize, the regulating, the responding, and the rebuilding all has to happen in that moment.
And let's also be honest, we're humans. We're going to fall off sometimes, you know, we're not always going to get it perfect the first time. You may respond well at some point, or you may not respond well and you may just recognize and not do the rest of the process, but that's all progress. That's all good progress.
Yeah, any progress is good progress. It's not about, it doesn't matter if you slip up. God knows how many times I've slipped up. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's like you drive a car. When you drive a car, you don't get it right. You're up a hill and it reverses down. The clutch you don't get right, but over practice, over time, you become perfect. And you start doing this naturally.
So we want to leave you with some final thoughts. And one really important thing I want to say is, if you are in a situation where, you know, you're staying friends with someone, you're in a relationship with someone, and you know that it's maybe not right, that doesn't make you a weak person.
No, not at all. It makes you human. We've all done it and we will carry on doing it. But where it's affecting your well-being, where it's affecting your growth, then you do have to take some steps. And it's not being selfish. Boundaries are healthy. You're allowed to live your life too.
So ask yourself, are you staying with this person or in this relationship because it's healthy for you, or just because the pattern is familiar?
I mean, it's a one-time life, offer a chance. Live fully.
Yes, and thank you once again for listening. And remember, one moment can shift everything.
Thank you.